What's going on, guys, and welcome back. We say goodbye to Season 1 and hello to Season 2 with Emma Frost, a new map, the Hellfire Gala, Ultron, and a lot of balance changes that are certainly going to fuel that fire. Now, a few days ago, I did go over my first impressions of every hero change, but you guys definitely seem to love the side-by-side comparisons, and now we have the gameplay to do so, to look at Season 1 versus Season 2 and see exactly the difference of the gameplay. And let me tell you guys, I think there's some hidden gems within this patch that you might not realize. Let's jump in. All right, guys, first up is Steve Rogers, and Captain America is going to have his base health reduced from 675 down to 650, but he does have the seasonal bonus with Bucky Barnes, in which you are the anchor. You don't need to have Winter Soldier in the lobby to get the bonus, so this is a net trade of 75 bonus health, which is a lot for a character that's main niche is survivability. In addition to the bonus health as well, he's going to have 5% damage across the board in Season 2. Now, to compensate all these extra bonuses, they are reducing his shield value of Living Legend from 400 down to 350, which, to be honest, is going to be felt a little bit, but he does have a lot of health to compensate, and you should be getting the job done faster because, well, you have extra damage to do so. And last but not least, guys, you didn't often see Captain America with Thor, but he is going to lose access to that team up, so no longer can you get the, Thunder Shield with him. Next up, we move to Doctor Strange, who seems like he gets a nerf every single patch. He will be gaining 100 extra HP from his anchor bonus, but in testing and just by playing Doctor Strange, the cons definitely outweigh the pros. So they're doing two things to reduce his offensive capabilities. First, they're going to decrease his dagger damage per projectile from 18 to 16, resulting in a loss of like thousands of damage per match. But on top of that, they're reducing his Maelstrom of Madness, his AoE pop, with a damage ratio change of 1.3 down to 1.2. Now, why this is so significant is he can no longer one-shot 250 health heroes within support ults, which was one of the biggest things about him. And even though they're giving him 100 extra health, which truly is only 50 extra health because they just got rid of 50 the last patch, this point blank is just going to hurt the Vanguard, and he's no longer in Hulk's team up as well. Now, with some good news, we move on to Bruce Banner, the Hulk, who's getting some great buffs here. First of all, they're going to be increasing his base movement speed from 600 to 650, which may not seem like a lot, but when you combine that with a decrease in minimum charge time for his incredible leap from 0.7 seconds to 0.5 seconds, you should be able to become much more of a menace against squishies and chase down your targets. And overall, the feel of his dive kit and hunting his prey is going to feel that much better. Now, if that wasn't enough, probably the biggest change by far is the reduction in cooldown of his indestructible guard, his green bubble. It's going to go down from 12 seconds to 10 seconds, which is a huge change because this is where you base a lot of the gameplay loop of the Hulk. You'll be able to dive in a lot more often, protect your teammates from ultimates, and overall, the Hulk is just going to feel that much better, which he needed to because he was definitely kind of left out of the meta in Season 1.5. Now, the Master of Magnetism, Magneto, is getting a small nerf to his ultimate. They're going to be increasing the time it takes to charge it by nearly 10%, which is not that big of a deal. Combined that he's going to be with White Queen and that new team up. Magneto was already an S tier, just top tank within the game, and he's going to stay that. One of the best within Rivals, and I think he's going to be a leading candidate to get some nerfs come 2.5. All right, Peni Parker, guys, has not received any buffs since the launch of the game, and that changes massively today. Now, she's already one of the most dominant tanks all the way up to Diamond rank within rank play. And these buffs are going to make her that much harder to go up against. I mean, you already had low rank struggle with the traps, mines, and just the overall gameplay of her bunker playstyle. But now her cyberweb cluster has the chance to crit, which is absolutely insane and is going to rack up the damage in Penny. But on top of this, you move so much quicker while firing her primary. As you used to get hit with a 40% speed reduction, now it's only a 20% speed reduction, resulting in her entire flow and gameplay being that much smoother, more consistent, and more threatening. Oh, and on top of this, they're giving her 100 extra HP, going from 650 to 750, because why not? And this is going to help a lot of the problems she had, not having a way to protect herself. She does get self-healing, but Wolverines could kidnap her and kind of melt her down. All of this combined, forget the Hellfire Gala season, this is the season of Peni Parker. So the thing came out last season and definitely made a splash in the meta. They're going to be taming a very small nerf to him by decreasing his damage reduction for his leap for himself and his teammates from 30% down to 25%. Now, I would say a majority of kind of lower rank things just use this as an escape and you won't feel it that much. But in high rank, this was great to pair with something like Star-Lord's Legendary to keep him alive that much more. So it will be felt a bit more in high rank play, but for the most part, you're not going to notice this all too much. Next up, we move to the Mighty Thor, who's going to get an increase in base health from 525 to 600. But sadly, this is a wash of losing 25 health because he was a seasonal anchor bonus hero, getting 100 HP. So now he's going to have 25 less. But in return, you trade 25 HP to get an increase in his base movement speed from 600 to 650. Just like the Hulk, he's going to get an 8% movement speed buff, which for somebody that likes to hunt down his prey and chase targets, this is really nice. He's going to love this. All right, now for Black Widow, this is going to be a small buff, but it's not a bad one at all and should result in more kills. Natasha is going to get a new added effect where Black Widow can directly shoot after releasing the second kick of Edge Dancer and after using her Electroplasma Explosion. Now, I don't play a lot of her, but this should be felt the most when you have someone that's trying to chase you down, let's say Black Panther, Iron Fist. Now, typically you can do a shot, maybe a couple of kicks, but oftentimes you need one extra shot to finish them off. And well, you've got to reload, but now it's a lot quicker and you should be able to get them down that much faster. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a change because compared to Hawkeye, which is a sniper as well, they can't help themselves. Black Widow gets a buff, Hawkeye must get 10. Hawkeye is absolutely feasting here within the changes. An already slept on hero is getting a reduction in the slow effect while charging the bow from 30% to 20%, so you can move around that much faster while charging the bow. His hypersonic arrow is getting technically a 10 damage buff as it's going from 50 to 55, but it has the capability to hit the target twice, which in practice has felt like a very nice change to the kit. And then lastly, guys, for whatever reason, they reduced the time it takes to charge his ultimate by 16%, going from 3700 down to 3100. And on top of this, they improved the bow draw speed increase from 1.35 to 1.5. All these combined, hide your Lunas, hide your cloak because Hawkeye's looking to hunt. All right, the Goddess of Death, Hela, is going to have a bit of a trait in her mobility, which they'll be increasing the cooldown for her Astral Flock from 12 seconds to 15 seconds, making it a bit more tough to get around the map, and you're going to have to decide when to use it, to close in on enemies or to escape. Hela mains are definitely going to feel this a little bit, but in return, the increased spell field damage of Piercing Knight goes from 30 to 35, which is also an increase to the overall damage because direct hits also calculate the spell damage. In addition, they're also decreasing the cooldown for Soul Drainer from 12 seconds down to 10 seconds. This is one of the biggest parts about her combo, especially if you're going on the flank and trying to surprise another Hela or DPS. We see this used all the time, and for 16% difference cooldown is insane. Now, I've got a fever, and the only prescription is more Human Torch buffs, and boy, did we get it. They're going to be reducing the attack interval for his fire cluster from 0.6 to 0.5, meaning the launching time of the primary attack projectile has been advanced. And you can tell that definitely he already did good damage, and he's going to do a lot more up close and personal. Now, in addition to this, they're going to give him a new effect with his Flaming Meteor, immediately gaining 75 bonus health, which will start to fall off after 3 seconds, but that's more than enough time to pump him full of your new Fire Cluster buff. But to compensate this, they do increase the cooldown from 12 seconds to 15. Next up, we have Iron Man, who's going to get a slight reduced hitbox size, and I gotta be honest, it's a very small change, so don't expect anything crazy impactful, but it is nice to get any more added survivability as a flyer. This is something I think if you play Iron Man all the time, you might notice, but if you don't, it's not going to be that big of a change. But way bigger than that, he's going to gain 100 bonus health when activating his Armor Overdrive or his Gamma Overdrive. Now, this will start to fall off after 5 seconds, which is a good amount of time, and this is awesome for getting up close and personal with your Death Beam. Or even better, you can pop this before you ult, and you have that much better of a chance to survive to get the ult off completely. All right, guys, next up we move on to Iron Fist, and this is one of those changes that I think if you play a lot of them, you're going to love it, and if you dabble with the character, it's going to feel marginally the same. So first of all, guys, they reduced the bonus max health gain from his Meditate Harmony Recovery from 150 to 100, but the fall off rate's going to be reduced from 25 per second to 15 per second, meaning you'll have, the bonus health a little longer, but it's less health. They also lowered his fixed damage from his kind of tank busting ability from 10 to 9, but they increased the percentage damage of the enemy's max health per strike from 1.7% to 2.1%. Now, I don't expect you to feel this damage at all, really, against squishy characters, but you get a nice little damage increase against tanks. And then lastly, and maybe most significantly, the cooldown of his kick is going to go from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. And this kick can take you a pretty far distance, so you should be able to get in a lot easier, try to get some eliminations, and then get out that much more swiftly. All right, so Mr. Fantastic got a load of changes, and we're going to read through them all, and then I'll tell you about what I think this is going to do for the character. Now, first of all, they're going to increase the base health of Mr. Fantastic from 350 to 375, adding to his overall survivability. They're going to boost the damage of his stretch punch from 60 to 65 and from 75 to 80 while in the inflated state. So both of his main primary attacks, no matter which form he is going to get a damage boost. His flexible elongation is going to get a new effect. This will now make them suffer a 35% slow effect. And on top of this, they're going to make the cooldown go from 10 seconds down to 8 seconds. So far, everything here talked about today has been a buff, but a little bit of a nerf coming in. They're going to reduce the elasticity gain from his elastic strength, his passive ability from 30 to 20, while the elasticity provided by stretch punch is increased from 5 to 8. Now, after entering the inflated state, the bonus health provided to himself has been reduced to 450 to 400. Now, why this is probably a big deal is you used to be able to use about 3 of his abilities, and with his passive combined with 2 punches, you could get into his big threatening mode, but now you need to hit 3 abilities with 5 punches to get into that big mode. So you're definitely a bit more of a change there. Playing some Fantastic myself, I think one thing that was nice about it is you were able to kind of hover around the 90% range to go into big mode, and then you could easily get into it fast if you needed to. So this will take some adjusting overall. Last but not least, when Mr. Fantastic uses his ultimate, you're going to immediately gain bonus health equal to that you gained in the inflated state. You simply get it all by just pressing the ultimate button, which is definitely going to add to his much needed survivability within the ult. All right, so Moon Knight has had his Hand of Khonshu adjusted pretty much every patch since launch. And well, they're going to do so yet again by extending the duration of the effect from 3.5 seconds up a full second, which is going to be a very noticeable change. On top of this, they'll be increasing the number of talons the hands generating from this period from 14 to 18, and the fall speed is also going to be slightly enhanced. But to compensate this, there's a new damage fall-off mechanic for the spell field that's been added. So it's going to start at the beginning in the center of the Hand of Khonshu, and then it's going to reach a maximum reduction of 70% at 5 meters, which is obviously a pretty big damage fall off. Overall, this is a buff though to the ultimate, and you should definitely be able to use it more with Groot and in different like hallways and closed corridors. Now, for even some more good stuff, they're going to be increasing his crescent dart projectile speed from 120 meters per second to 150, making his overall primary damage increase that much more. They're going to be faster and more lethal. On top of this, he gains a lot of survivability as the Moon Blade is going to get a new effect, gaining 25 bonus health with each enemy hit, up to a maximum of 100. Now, all you really need is 2 different opponents for this to get its main effect to bounce back and forth between them. And after 3 seconds of this bonus health not increasing, it's going to start to fall off at a rate of 20 per second. Lastly, they've identified that he needs a bit more of an escape option when getting closed in by someone like Psylocke, and they're going to speed up his Moon Knight hook pull time from 0.4 seconds to 0.15. So the reduction in how long it takes to get this thing going, resulting in a much faster getaway. All right, guys, moving on to Scarlet Witch. And I want to start things out by saying she is losing her anchor bonus with her chaotic bond with Magneto, which gave her a permanent 10% damage boost across the seasons. So everything here is going to really wash out the majority of this because 10% is obviously a good amount of damage. First of all, they're going to be removing Chaos Control's percentage damage while increasing the fixed damage from 60 per second to 80 per second, which is just straight up a nerf for the most part. She'll be losing 15 damage per second on tanks and is gaining roughly 5 damage per second on squishies. Now, they also increase her AoE bombs, her little projectile damage from 35 to 40, and the spell field damage from 35 to 40, so it's going to be a 10 damage net change. So you'll be getting a just ever so slightly 3 damage total increase on these with the reduction of that 10%. Probably the biggest nerf to her kit by a good amount is the increased cooldown of Mystic Projection. Her Fade ability is going to go from 8 seconds to 10 seconds, so you're going to have a much longer wait time to be able to escape. And the phase state, which this is the biggest part, the time within it is going to go from 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds. This is a big change, especially for those that love Scarlet Witch. Now, a lot of people feel like obviously her new team up is going to make her that much better. If Strange does get picked at all, he will, but it's going to obviously be less than before. But since she does have auto aim, people don't want her to be too good. Now, last but not least, they did rework the slow effect of her Reality Eraser. Her ultimate is going to start at 1.5 seconds instead of starting immediately, with a linear increase to 35% slow over 3.5 seconds. Overall, I think this is going to add to creativity of when to use this ultimate and trying to line it with portals and or in and out of team fights. Next up, we move to Peter Quill. Star-Lord is going to be getting a nerf in his blaster barrage damage from 80 per second to 75. But much bigger than that, they'll be introducing a new damage fall-off mechanic starting at 4 meters and maxing out to an 80% reduction at 8 meters. This is a massive hit to Star-Lord. All right, so Bucky Barnes has been now one of the most banned heroes and honestly one of the most hated. But he is an important piece to the game when it comes to anti-dive and handling other heroes. Now, Bucky's going to be gaining a brand new team up with Captain America, giving him more survivability to jump to allies in a time of need. And he also gains a brand new counter attack that's going to help reload his primary pistol. However, they're going to be hitting him with back-to-back nerfs as they're going to increase the cooldown time of his bionic hook from 8 seconds to 12 seconds, just a net 50% increase of cooldown time, and they'll be reducing his base damage of crack and impact from 100 to 80. In addition to this, you'll have to get them down to 15% health instead of 20 to get the automatic reset effect. Now, Wolverine is going to get an increase in rage from his basic Savage Claw hit from 7 to 10, but just about everything else is going to get a rage decrease. So you can see here his Berserk Claw Strike has been decreased from 7 to 5. His Feral Leap ability used to give you 20, now only 10. And his Vicious Rampage is going to go from 20 down to 15. However, now when Wolverine gets hit by an instance of damage, instead of 3 rage per hit, he'll be gaining 5. Now, lastly, they're going to be reducing the knockdown time from the impact of his last stand from 1 second down to 0.75 seconds. Which is a small change, but also should help out a lot of strategists live that much longer. All right, so Adam Warlock is getting an increased cooldown for his Soulbound from 30 seconds to 40 seconds, which, as I've stated before, you won't see in team fights as you typically only use it once per fight anyway, but you'll notice this a lot in domination and in neutral fights. This will definitely feel that much more awkward. But his Karmic Revival is getting just pretty much a net buff across the board. Instead of getting 100 fixed health damage upon revival, he's now going to restore 30% of fallen allies' maximum health, which is a very marginal nerf for squishies, but a huge buff for vanguards. Cloak and Dagger. Now, right now, this is actually currently bugged. It's actually disappearing after the first instance of healing. But what they want to do, and what I think will change by the time Season 2 hits, is the duration of the first 3 healing zones will no longer be calculated separately, and instead now all of them will stay up the same amount, and when the final healing zone ends, they're all going to end together. This should make Cloak and Dagger's ultimate way more dependable and useful. Now, Invisible Woman, whose shield is insane paired with Hela, Star-Lord, and pretty much anybody else, is going to get a decrease in shield value from 300 down to 250. Now, in addition, Loki is also going to see a nerf as well to his regeneration domain, his green circle, his crystals, his runestones, again, whatever you want to call them. The cooldown is going to go from 25 seconds to 30 seconds. Not that big of a deal if I say so myself. Now, Mantis is seeing a bunch of change here, and it doesn't seem like much, but trust me, it's a lot. First of all, her health is being nerfed from 275 down to 250, which is a massive difference. Definitely tough to take such a big nerf, but the buff she is getting is going to make her one of the highest skill ceiling heroes within the game. The uptime with her orbs now is going to be insane, as the effects of the Healing Flower and Allied Inspiration can be stacked up to a maximum of 16 seconds. So you can now see that you can stack the healing and or damage, letting it last that much longer, giving this to a flanking hero or maybe a tank, and overall having to use less because of the way the health works with the instant healing orb. All right, last but not least, we get to Rocket Raccoon, and this one is a lot. So I want to go ahead and read everything they did, and then I'm going to break down my opinions of the changes. So first off, guys, they are reducing the per second healing of these spheres from 70 health per second to 50 health per second. But they're going to add a new effect of a one-time healing of 55 health to any ally that it hits, meaning one orb can hit multiple allies. The projectile speed is also going to be reduced, and so this is worded very weird, but it's going to slow down even more so as it hits allies. In addition, in a shock to most people, they're going to be extending the cooldown of the jetpack dash from 6 seconds to 10 seconds, and they're going to reduce the dash distance from 10 meters to 8 meters. A 40% increase in cooldown is wild for a hero that thrives in mobility. Now, his ultimate is seeing a complete overhaul, as the damage boost is now going from 40% down to 25%, but they're adding a new effect of during the ability's duration. Anybody within it is going to be receiving an additional 100 bonus health per second, capping at 150. And if they leave the ultimate ability range, they're going to start losing this bonus health after 1 second at a rate of 75 per second. Additionally, now the ultimate is about 8% longer to charge. So in short, guys, what I think about the Rocket ultimate is that the healing is much better. It feels better, and it's going to just be way more clutch in times of need, especially for instant healing. And so you should feel a good impact here on him being a pure healer, which for the most part is going to be applicable for, let's say, anybody under, I don't know, Grandmaster is going to like these changes a ton. But in exchange, you're getting rid of things that made Rocket so unique, and they pride themselves of saying that strategist does not equal healer, and so it's kind of counterproductive here, as Rocket had more of a role of this strategist that could do a lot of different things compared to some of the others. And now, well, I think his mobility is definitely a bummer that he lost that. I think people will adjust. It's not going to be the end of the world, but definitely is going to be that much harder. And you're going to have to wall crawl that much more. And so you're going to have to pay attention to just mastering his kind of movement tech. But as for his ultimate, listen, I think that the team, again, let's say, Grandmaster and below is going to like this ultimate better. Communicating his 40% damage increase with your team was pretty tough most of the time at low rank play. So in general, for the large lot of Rockets, this will feel like a buff across the board. But for ones that really mastered the craft, I can see them not liking this change for a lot of reasons. First of all, now, I think the damage increase going from 40 to 25 was a bit too much. 35% would have been fine to me. The bonus health is nice, and it's definitely going to be more like the other support ultimates that we already have, but a little bit weaker. And so it kind of feels like he's not the master of none, and because it's going to be nice, but it feels like he kind of does both things semi-good instead of maybe just his damage really good and just a little bit of extra health. I would have been fine even with just 100 bonus health cap with, keeping the damage the same or something along the lines, giving him more of that identity. He's losing Bucky in his team up, so you already have that going against him. I think Rocket's still going to be a great hero. His healing's going to be much better. Personally, it feels like he took a little bit of an unwanted change to that mobility hit, and his ultimate is losing a bit of his identity, although I think it is going to be, for the large majority, welcomed. So there you guys go. That's all the side-by-side comparisons. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you appreciated the effort and the video itself, subscribe down below for more content. A lot of Season 2 stuff on the way. And until the next one, happy rivaling.